Welcome back to Dev Odyssey, a developer's journey through IT, where I cover tutorials and reviews of IT tools and technologies. I am your host, Orest, and today we are continuing our Advanced Postman series with Postman XML Scripting using Cheerio JS. Prior to this video, we had looked at Postman API, and so this is Postman's unique RESTful API that allows you to do many automations within their framework. So that would be things like creating collections, deleting collections, creating monitors, etc., or even running monitors as well. So in order to get a little bit more about that, I'd recommend you click the video to the above me, actually. Additionally, if you're just landing on this and you know a bit about Postman but are trying to learn more, I'd recommend the Advanced Postman series. Again, you could see that link of that above me. Lastly, if you're just getting started with Postman, I'd go ahead and recommend the Introduction to Postman series. Again, you'll find that above me. So to get started with Postman XML Scripting, the reason for this video is because I had some troubles with this on my own. Back at my prior job within the company I'm at, they have plenty of legacy SOAP legacy services. And so what SOAP is briefly is a simple object access protocol. It's another type of web application where you can perform certain requests that basically do things for you on the web server. Generally, those are written in XML. And so before this, I was actually using a tool from Parasoft. It was a SOA test that would do a lot of our XML automations and requests using these SOAP tools. Granted, I wanted to move to a different, less bulky and less cluttered IDE or APE, as Postman calls it. I tried to use it in here, but I had difficulty using XML. So since it's native with JSON, it was much more easier to do that. But I didn't want to have to go back to that. So doing some research, I was able to find Cheerio JS and really figure out how I can use Postman with XML type services. Not only just SOAP, but also using SAML. And what SAML is security assertion markup language. And so that allows me to basically create a request to get a token type, or in this case, an assertion, take that assertion and then send it off to the SOAP service that would authorize me and then return me a response if I was authorized. And so you'll actually see a lot of SAML used in single sign-on, so that's still a prevalent thing used today. And so overall, I think those are the many reasons why I think you can get some value out of this video and learning how to do XML in Postman. So I do have a sample collection set up for us, but first I'm going to go off and start with Cheerio JS and just get a quick overview of some of the functions and the methods that they have. And we're going to do this in the console. Then we'll return to this and I'll actually complete a whole flow of getting a SAML token and calling a SOAP service. Granted, I created Postman mock servers for this, and so I'll go ahead and share those with you. Additionally, I have this collection out available online. I'll share that, and then I also have the code that we're about to go through for Cheerio. That's in a GitHub gist, and I'll share that in the description. So to get started, it's just imagine this as the Postman pre-request section or the test section. Generally, you'd probably be doing this more in the test section or the pre-request, depends. But when you're getting, let's say, a SAML assertion, that's in the pre-request. But anyway, enough about that. So this is just like that. Here, we just define that we need to pull Cheerio down. In the Postman pre-request and test, we don't have to do that because it's already pulled down for us. But and additionally, we don't have to do this set a static XML response because, again, that'll be pulled down. But in order to show this test out, I have to do that. We will have to, however, do a Cheerio, we'll have to load the response body. So in this case, I'm loading the text XML into this constant that's called $. And so in there, I'll be able to perform all my functions. So first, we're going to go over these methods real quick, and then I will demo some of them in a terminal. So once we load Cheerio or this XML into a native object in JavaScript or in Cheerio, we could start to perform these methods on it. And notice I have ignoring white space and XML mode true, so we can do XML type things. So to get started, we have console.log XML. So what this will do is it'll take this and return an XML function, and it actually just spits out plain XML. So really nice. Here we get the slideshow node. So not to scroll up too much, but you'll see that we have a slideshow node right here. What that does is that's basically a it's like XPathing. So it'll actually take that take that node using this type of parentheses and single quote syntax. And so now this means we're at that node, and anything we do is going to be within that node or below it. So that will obtain that node. Here we obtain the attribute author for that slideshow node. Here we actually obtain that attribute node author, and we set it to a new name. So this is actually setting it. So this is set it to Andrew. And then this .html will print that out. Briefly on that, .xml is only a function on a high-level Cheerio object and not within nodes. So in order for me to get that same type of markup language that we get with XML, I have to do .html. But they come out the same, and they still come out useful. Here we have the slideshow, and this will remove the attribute of date within that slideshow node. This right here for slideshow.is checks if the nodes are the same in like the same object. This right here for find will actually search the node under the slideshow node to see if it can find a slide node. In this case, returns the length. Additionally, we can find it by using a attribute type. So in this case, we're searching it on the type attribute equal to second. Here we can get a parent node of the node that we're at. So in this case, we do slideshow node, and we find the slide node, and we get the parent of it and spit out the author, which would just be I believe up there it said yours truly. Now just print that out. So it's kind of going down and then back one up, but this is for the sake of example. Here, this is finding a kind of like a search on parents. So what this does is we first get to the slide node from the slideshow node, then we find the parent node where the slideshow node has an attribute equal to slideshow sample, where title is that attribute. Here, this just gets all the children, and with that we get the length or how many children. Here we do the same thing with children, but it's actually getting a specific child in this case, where the slide node child and its type is type attributes equal to second. Here we do the same thing with the slideshow node for next. So in this case, we get to the slide node, and when we first use a find function, it actually returns the first instance or the first occurrence. So in this case, it returns the first occurrence of the slide node, and then the next function just steps over to the next slide node. In this case, we have previous, which is just exactly the opposite of second. So in this case, we go to the second slideshow node because we're matching on its attribute type second, and then we go previous, so we go to the first node. Here we have a map function, and so you can go, and it's a bit functional type in syntax, but what this does is it allows us to iterate over the slideshow nodes, perform operations on them, then return them all to the caller or return them at the end, and then again perform any operations on this. So in this case, we're returning the text of each of those slideshow or slide nodes, and then we're getting them all and combining them with the join at the space separator. Here we have first and last. So this case, we get all the children, we'll get the first node. Below it, we get all the children node from slideshow, we get the last node. Here we have an equal syntax, so EQ with an index in it gets you that node. So in this case, starting at a zero-based index, 1 will get us the second node. And then very similarly with get, they work a little bit differently, but almost the same. So when we do a .get on a node, and we do 1, we get that node, and we get, in this case, we could do a tag name on it and return its tag name. And then lastly, we do have some more important methods, I may say, the actual creation of XML. So we're going to only go over 3 of them. In this case, we have append. And so what the append method will do is it'll insert that tag or that XML within the XML node tag. So in this case, within the slideshow tag, we're going to get a slide node. Now prepend will do the same thing, except if there's anything already in that node, it's going to add it prior, while append will add it after that, whatever's in that node. So for example, if we already had XML in there, it'll add it after. And prepend, if we already had XML, it'll add it before, so at the top. Now, we have one more at the bottom here called after, and so that may seem similar to append, which it is, but it's slightly different. What append and after do differently is that after inserts it after that node. So in this case, at the end of the slideshow node, after the slideshow node is closed off, it adds it after. So that's outside of the slideshow tags. Or in this case, excuse me, the slide tags. So it's after it and not before it. And that basically covers what we have in here. So if we are interested, I'll go through just a couple of these executions. And so I'm going to start with taking this and putting it in our terminal, which I have right here. So first I'm going to get into a node session. Here I will paste that in. And then again, we will need to put our reference to Cheerio. All right. And now that we have that, we're going to go over just some high-level ones. So we'll go over this one here with, we'll actually log the XML first, since that's a good beginning example. So here, let's see. Oh, my problem was I did not load the Cheerio node or the XML into a Cheerio object. So now, here we have that loading now, so we should not have that problem. So there we go. So now you can see it took that XML and printed it as straight XML on the page. So now I'll go over the slideshow, the attribute one. So we're gonna go ahead and I have on another window. I'm gonna copy and paste that in here. So see how in this case, the attribute author is yours truly, which if we go through here, we can see, let's see, if we go through here, we can see that that's the date, the title, and author is yours truly right there. So we're gonna go over some more. We already went over the attribute ones. We have remove and overwrite, which we don't need to go over that. Here, I'm gonna do the find. So in this case, we'll see that with this code, we find that slide node and we get the length of it. So we should get 3. So what this shows is that we have 3 slide nodes within the slideshow XML. Here we can do a parent and a child. So here we're getting the author of that parent, which is, again, it's yours truly. Here we'll do child.length, and this shows us how many, or excuse me, children.length, and it shows us how many children we have. So 3 again. So we have the next and previous are pretty obvious. We can go over one of those. We'll go over the next one, and it'll print that in HTML for us on the page. So you can see this gets that second node in here. And this is only the inner XML or HTML, whatever you want to call it. But this is actually the inner markup content and not including the outer one, the parent. And that's important, and we're going to go over that very shortly when we get into Postman. And so lastly, there's first and last, there's the equals, and then I'll do an example with the append. And so in the append here, we're going to add, and here we're going to add a node to this. So once we print that out, you see we get a bunch of really nice and pretty XML. What can I say? So we get that, but then if we actually print out the total XML, we'll see that we got some more, we'll see that we added to it. So at the end, you can see right here where it says slide type blah, you know, let's see if I could see. There we go. Wait, I am a new slide. So you can see we added that and it appended it. Prepend, we'll do the prior to this, so it'll actually add it above. So we'll change it up. Wait, I am a new slide. We'll go ahead and try that out. And again. So now you can see we have yours truly. See how we have this right here at the top? Slide right there. Blah, wait, I am a new slide. So you can see, so we have that again. So now we have it at the top and we have it at the bottom. And then lastly, there's after, but I already explained that. So that'll just add it after the tag. And I don't think we need to go over that. So now what we're going to do is go over this in Postman. So here, very quickly, I have, this is a actual real live example, something I actually did at my profession. So what we have here is two things. We're going to mock calling a SOAP endpoint, where first in order to call that endpoint or that web service, we need to get a SAML assertion. And then from that assertion, we can put it in the service, a call, and then send it out and hopefully get a response. So in this case, this is our SAML assertion. Here we have a SAML request, we can call it. And this is just basically a bunch of XML about it. This kind of asks, what am I, give me these permissions to do these things. And that's what all this XML really is. So it's basically an ask of, hey, I want a SAML assertion to give me the permission to do, let's say, read, write, execute on whatever object it is, you know, within the web service or within the application. And then we should get a response of what that SAML assertion is. So we're going to go ahead and test that out. And we'll see here we have a bunch of assertion code. So we have a SAML response, as you can see. And then the more important stuff is the stuff right here. So we have the SAML response, and then the assertion is right here. So if I might be able to zoom in on that. This right here is what's important. So this SAML assertion is everything that we're going to want. What it's going to do for us is this is what is that kind of like token that gives us all the permissions on everything that we want to do. And it's a pretty big tag. So it basically goes from beginning to end with this. So to zoom out. Now we're going to do this with an example of that slideshow XML. And just to note, I'll have all my resources for the assertions, the SAML type of code, or the SAML XML, the other XML I did for a mock service that's from HTTP bin. Those will all be in the description as well. So here we're doing the example of obtain slides. So in this case, in order for us to really execute that, first we want to call the SAML request here, get this assertion, pull it out, put it into the body here, which I'll show you as a variable, and then make the call. That's it. It's very basic. This service here is just a search. I'm going to search on a slideshow with the title named sample slideshow. And it's just a static response, so it's going to give us back anything. So once I do this call, I will automate that getting of the assertion in this pre-request script here. We're going to go over this very briefly. So all I really do is I take this request and I push it into this pre-request script using Postman's send request syntax. So here we do a send request to this Postman mock service. We do a post request. I define the content type as application XML. It's a raw text, or I call it raw. And in here we have the raw request. And generally in here as well, you would also put like a username and password, but we're not going over the in-depths of how to do a SAML. So here we receive that response, and this is exactly where we're doing the Cheerio type stuff. And it's really simple. There's only 3 lines that we need. So here we create that constant called SAML, not $. We do Cheerio load on the SAML response text. So that gives us the raw text from the response, which is that assertion. Here we get that assertion by doing defining a constant variable assertion, and we do that same type of syntax. So we get the high level object, Cheerio object called SAML. Within there, we have a namespace XML of SAML P and response. So this is the top level node. And then within that top level node, find a child node called assertion. So with the namespace SAML. And these backslashes are for escaping the colon. So this gets that object. But again, what we want to be sure is that we are getting the whole SAML assertion and not just the inner text. So I have this PM's environment set variable, or the set function that will set the variable assertion here to that whole assertion level object by doing a call to the SAML Cheerio object. And then within this HTML function, we throw in the actual assertion. So what it does is it gives us the outer text, or the outer HTML versus just the inner HTML. And that's important because in a SAML call and in a SOAP request, we want to put that assertion header tag in there. Without that, it will not work. And then once we do that, it'll actually obtain it. It'll put it in here. So we can peek at this. And I've already done this so you can see it's already been set. It'll obtain that assertion, put it in here, and then execute it. For the sake of this example, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the content in there so you can see it get populated. So now we're going to go ahead and run this call, and then check our results in the console actually. So I'm going to upload this, start this console. We'll move it off to the side for now. So once I do this request, you can see we get a example response of slideshows, yours truly, kind of all the stuff you've already seen in there, and just a bunch of different slides in there. But let's look at this Postman console where we can get more information. So first we have our post request to our pre-request script. We pull out that SAML, we use the SAML request here, and then in here, we have our response body. So that's all of that SAML response. Now here in our second post request, or our main request, we're doing that actual call, and you can see at the top here we have our envelope, our header, and then our security header, which here you can see starts the assertion right there. So there's our whole SAML assertion at the top, and it ends at the bottom right there. And then after our out of our SOAP header, we go to our SOAP body and we just have the search tag on that SAML slideshow. So in real life, this would, assuming we got the correct assertion, it would authorize us, and then we get back that response that we see at the bottom here, which is all of just the slideshow search results. And that really just covers it. So again, I'll have all these resources available in the description where you can go over them yourself. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Please make a comment or anything. I'd be more than happy to help. I thank you for watching my channel. I appreciate it, and this video, and sticking around. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you like this content, more Postman content or other IT tools and technologies that I'll be shortly getting into, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And make sure you click the bell for a notification so you know when a new video comes out. In the next video, we're going to cover the Postman APIs tab. And so this is still in beta, but we're going to show how Postman has created a workflow for you to create an API and basically go from idea and inception to endpoint API consumption and development. And so they have that in here with this process for define, develop, test, and observe. And so that's just combining all the best parts of Postman's features and putting them into one tab and a workflow. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care.